Thank you very much indeed, David. So, guilty verdicts in the trial of the younger Sanaya brother in the Boston bombing. We'll of course bring you any further developments from Massachusetts as they come in. Let's return now to today's main election news, which was Labour's proposals to tax non-DOMs. With me now is the Conservative Treasury Minister, David Gauke. Welcome to you. The Conservative government, the coalition government, has already acted against non-DOMs, so in principle, you think this is a good idea to deal with them, that they haven't been paying their fair share. Would that be fair?
Well, you're right to say that we have acted on this area. We have increased the charge that applies for non-DOMs, as was being pointed out earlier. Just this week, the numbers have gone up.
So in principle, it's a good idea to deal with non-DOMs.
Our principled approach here is that we want to make sure that non-DOMs make the biggest contribution to the economy and to the exchequer that we possibly can. And the question is how you go about doing that.
But there's also a principle of fairness, and presumably the reason why you introduced these charges on non-DOMs is because you thought that they had been getting away unfairly compared to other people in this country, and that therefore you wanted to correct that.
Well, the position until, you'll remember George Osborne setting out this policy in 2007, the Labour government then implemented it in 2008. We think they were right to do that. We were right also to increase the charges, and we made those announcements both in 2011
because you're not in
and
favour of
2014.
tax avoidance.
We're not in favour of
particularly by the rich. So in principle, this may be a way of doing it. This may be the best way of doing it. Maybe better than your way.
Well, I think that's the question is what is the best way of doing it. As Ed Balls made clear in his interview in January of this year, if you just completely get rid of the non-DOM status, you could end up costing Britain money. Actually, in truth, if you look at the small print, that's not what Labour are proposing. They've got a particular measure in terms of ending it after 5 years. They're going to allow
people who really are visitors for 3 or 5 years to have this status, but people who are living here, and you are already in your proposals accepted that if people are living here longer they should pay more, they're going to end the status for that. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, to be honest, they may have come out with it first and got the headlines, but it doesn't seem that far from what you were proposing to do anyway. Maybe just be a refinement of it.
Well, I think the purpose that we certainly have is making sure that we get a fair contribution from non-DOMs, which is why we've been willing to put up the fee.
Which is the same as theirs. I mean,
well, I'm not, as for them to set out what their principle behind it is, I think what you run the risk of doing with the Labour proposal is that you say one thing, but then you are doing another. And we have had a rather chaotic day where on the one hand Labour have been saying we're trying to abolish it, and then they're saying, well, actually, we're not trying to abolish it.
Presumably, if it was easy, this government would have sorted it out long ago. I mean, tax is complex by definition. I don't need to tell you that as a Treasury Minister, do I?
Well, yes, it is a complex matter, which is why when you're making reforms in these areas that you need to do it carefully, you need to think it through, you need to have an understanding of all the risks. And what we've had today is rather, a press release and some big headlines, and then the details haven't really backed up what they've been saying.
Are you defending the principle of non-DOM status remaining in this country?
What I'm saying is that we need to make sure that we get the best contribution from them. So, I mean, I think there can be a debate about that, and I
understand you want it to be efficient, but I mean, what Labour are now saying is that the principle of going back to this 200-year-old system designed for nabobs, people who are making money in India, which is a privileged status which, as far as I can gather, our competitors, France, Germany, the United States, don't have. They're saying the time's now to get rid of it. And indeed, Vince Cable, member of the coalition, said that he thought the time had come to get rid of it. Do you in the Tory party think the time has come to get rid of it?
I think if you got rid of it altogether, I think you would run into some difficulties because, as Ed Balls, I don't often say I agree with Ed Balls, but I agree with Ed Balls when he said...
He has refined his position.
Well, when he said in January, if you get rid of the status altogether, you end up costing Britain money. And, that would be a gap in the public finances that would have to be paid by hard-working Britons, and, we don't want to do that. But in terms of, wanting to ensure that we have a system that works, is updated, our record is very clear. we have increased the fees that apply here. As a government looking forward, we have said that we want to raise £5 billion from tax avoidance and tax evasion and aggressive tax planning. And in terms of any abuses of the non-dom regime, that would certainly be something we would want to look at.
Because it really is quite an important statement about our economy, isn't it? I mean, there are some people who say that we're over-dependent on finance, we're over-dependent, put it crudely, on hot money and tax exile, people using London as a tax haven, and effectively, if we keep non-doms, we're admitting that really we're in the pocket of these billionaires who may be scamming the system. No,
I wouldn't accept that. What I would say is that any government has to find the right balance between ensuring that we are an attractive place. It is of benefit to the UK economy that we attract talented individuals from around the world to the UK, with also ensuring that we get a fair contribution from them. And that's the balance that we have sought to undertake over the last 5 years.
It is true that, when we say, well, net the contribution of each non-dom is £130,000 a year in tax, I mean, you can do the sums. That's roughly the equivalent of someone earning £250,000, and these people are worth a lot more than that, aren't they? So they're getting a good deal.
Well, you have to remember that we get the fee, which, as I say, we've increased. It was 30,000, and now in some cases it'll be 90,000. We also get the income tax from the income in the UK, and there's also things like VAT on the expenditure and so on. I would make the argument we need to make sure that we've got the right policy that gets the balance right, and we've just seen chaos from the Labour Party.
We're going to have to leave it there. Got that chaos word in again. Thank you very much indeed, David Gauke. Should say we did have a Labour spokesman here, but they had to go because of that breaking news in Boston. Sarah Jane.
New details have emerged about the raid on